Hello, peculiars. Welcome to a new year. And as you can see, we did a new introduction as well. New claymation. Darwin is a little bit bigger in this one, and we got Kenobi in there. We're so happy to have you for our first show of January 2024 in season 5. And I'm excited to be here. Davey, are you excited? You're excited. Somewhere he is. There he is.
There I am. Yes, I'm very excited. Oh man, I feel recharged, energized, ready to go for
Ready to
season
go?
5. I got a new studio. I'm in a different room. No longer I finished my basement project. Maybe one day I'll do a slideshow and tell everybody
You
what it's
should
like
do a
to build a
slideshow.
basement.
Yeah. I've seen it
But,
in its stages, so I'm very impressed.
but yeah, I'm excited. I got a full slate of movies ready to go. I think I've
Oh,
got the whole year planned out already for me
this
and
is
Darren to
great. Oh, it's so
do.
exciting
So.
too because we were just chatting. We had quite a lot of you have tuned in to the movie podcast for the Christmas special, and we really did nice numbers last year. I know we've got some new people popping up. I just saw someone who was new, and I've missed them. Where'd they go? Eli, Danielle, Eli.
Uh,
There we are. Well, no, I lost your
yep.
text, but anyway,
There he
welcome.
is.
We're glad that there we go. We're really glad to see you. We see a lot of other people have come back. Amanda's in some snow or getting some snow. It looks like Randy's here. Tori. It's really good to see everybody, and some of you are even in Houston. So hopefully some of you are warm. The rest of us are cold. But all of us have at least one thing in common, which is right at the moment we're all on the internet watching this show live. And the internet's got some real problems. And we thought maybe we should start the year off by figuring out what to do about that. And who better to ask than Cory Doctorow? There you are.
Hey, how are you? I like that romper room bit before I see Jenny and I see Tommy, and that was very good.
We do, we do. We have some wonderful people. Actually, usually we pop them up in here just to say hi from folks. We've got people from all over the United States, but also all over the world.
Right.
And we some of them have come in from quite a long way away. And we're really
Right.
glad that you have joined us as well. I know you're fitting us in. Your schedule's really tight, so we're really, really thrilled to have you.
Yeah, well, thank you. Yeah, I wrote 9 books during lockdown, and so
Whew.
4 of them came out over the space of about 14 months. The fourth,
Oh my
sorry, I've
God,
got crap all over my sweater here.
totally
Four of them came out over the 3 came out last year, and the fourth one's coming out in a couple of weeks. So luckily they've done well, which means that I'm doing
yeah,
a lot of press for all of them and conference
sure, sure.
appearances and tours and virtual events and real events and whatnot. So yeah, it's a hectic time.
Now the one that's coming out, that's Lost Cause, right?
No, that
Oh
came out in
no.
December. The one that's
Oh, that one.
coming out
Oh
is
my goodness.
The Bezel, which is
The
about
Bezel.
it's the sequel to Red Team Blues, and it's
Oh, okay.
another forensic accounting high tech heist novel. This one is about variously a hamburger themed Ponzi scheme, music royalty ripoff, hyper sadistic prison tech,
Oh God.
and real estate investment trust scams that destroy cities.
Nice.
And it's got a long con and ice cold revenge, and yeah, it's pretty fun.
That's awesome. Well, I've really so I had no idea that you had written them all in the sort of same space of time, though I was wondering how they were coming out so quickly.
Yeah.
Um, that's got to be. I actually I sold. I was I sold 2 books in the same year and thought I was losing my mind. So I can't even imagine
Well,
what you're going through.
congratulations.
Thank you.
My dumb little word in shitification was
I love
the
that.
American Dialectic Society. Dialect Society. I guess the Dialectic Society would be Marxist, so they must be
Oh,
Dialect Society. Was their word of the year, and
I
this
love
has
it.
got my agent and my editor conspiring to make me write another book. So there might be a 10th out of this period, which would be hard
That's
but doable.
you've proven worthy of of the task. But I really think that for me, I think so. I've known you for a long time. I've known your work for a long time, way back to when I was writing Clockwork Futures, which was supposed to be called Dread Tech, but reasons and publishers and things. But what I really appreciated about InternetCon is that I'm angry, but I don't always know best how to articulate that anger, and I felt like there were times when I felt like you were channeling a lot of my aggression, but in a really articulate way. And I was just wondering if other folks felt the same way. Sadie Simmons says, I mean, shittification is the most accurate term to describe this decade in so many ways. It's really true.
Very nice
It's
of
really
them.
true.
Thank you.
Now, Amanda, who's in Utah, she did say she had a quick correction. The rocket boosters are built and tested in Box Elder County, not
Oh, well,
Brigham
thank you.
County.
That's going to paperback, so I'll make a little note here. We can fix
Yay,
it.
Amanda! Amanda is our Utah resident, but also our expert in peculiar beer. So she does a lot of that.
Although, if you'd put a gun to my head and made me bet on whether there was a county in Utah called Brigham, I would have bet. I mean, just in my own defense there.
No, it's true. All right, so I'm starting to
I
get
guess-
some questions
I
too.
guess now I have to scrap plans on quizzing Cory on Utah geography. I mean, that was going to be the quiz tonight. I'll come up with something else. I'll come up with something else.
I can find Weller books in Salt Lake City, even drunk. So
Well, it has the word "well" in the name. I feel like
Fair.
if you can't find the well when you're drunk,
but
it's
Weller, if you've never been, what an incredible bookstore. It's run by a multi-generational bookseller family
wow.
of leftist Jews who specialize in rare Mormon literature.
Oh my
And so one of the most memorable dinners of my life was a 3-generation bookseller dinner with grandma, who died during the pandemic, though not of the pandemic, over 100 in her bed peacefully.
Wow.
Mom and dad, who ran the store, and their then like 15-year-old goth daughter who worked in the store. And the dad of the Weller family is chronically indecisive and carries a 6-sided die around. And when it came time to order, he rolled for what he was going to eat off the menu. It was
Wow.
amazing. They're such nice people. I don't know if we have, I could probably find the date. We just agreed in principle to there being one of the tour stops for the tour on the
Nice.
in late
That's
February.
cool.
Yeah.
Late February. Okay. All right. Yeah. Well, let us know, because Leanne, who's one of our first questions earlier today, earlier in the feed, sorry, she actually helps us keep up with authors, and so we repost anything you've got going on to our feed so people know and can find it. So please let us know. We'll make sure to do that too.
I can find that email. It's literally, it was just before this. Oh, I've got the email open. What does it say about Weller? Store is confirmed the 21st of February.
21st of February. Okay. In
So
Utah.
we're going to do the launch in Menlo Park on the 20th, and then
Nice.
I'm going to boot down to SLC for the 21st.
Okay, cool. I see Jennifer Pierce has just got on, and Pat from Ottawa. So we've got some Minnesota and Ottawa and lots of other people coming in.
Canadians are like serial killers. We're everywhere and we look just like everybody else.
It's true. I have some questions that are already queuing up, and I know some of you are also typing questions, but while that's happening, we're going to do a few announcements and also introduce, we made a special drink just for the Internet Con and named it and everything in honor of you, Cory. So
it's not called the enshittification, is it?
It's not, though it was tempting.
Brown bitters.
Oh, Brown Betty bitters. There's a lot of things you could do with that. Davey, run the announcements for us. Okay, so we have live chat, and if you are with us, please do make sure that you're on the live part of the chat, because that's where all the comments and questions take place, and sometimes whole other conversations crop up over there. In addition, Davey, there it is. So there's a couple important things. If you're new to us, and I know we do have some new people, sign up for our newsletter if you haven't already. That's where we send out the live links. Join the private Facebook group. That's where we are most weird, actually. Discord is, we have a Discord channel, and the fun thing about that is we have a shop peculiar there, where if you are a maker, writer, creator, there is a place for you there, and we can find your stuff and buy it. Bookclub.com is a great way of keeping track of our shows. We have a spot there, and we also are on Goodreads. All of that's on our website. Just reminding you to make sure to check in. And next up, we have, yes, if you want to support us, almost all of our shows are free. We have some that are VIP only, and the VIP only ones just help us keep the lights on and pay our musicians and other things for the show. You can join us on Patreon, and we really appreciate it. And finally, our drink moment. So the name that won, they came up with the names themselves. The name that won is Dark Side of the Web. And this was an interesting one. It is a very dark drink. As you can see, 2 ounces of black vodka, blue quackleha, that stuff, Concord grape juice, lemon juice. We even have activated charcoal powder in it, for those of you who can use that, orange bitters, and a garnish of lemon peel to make this lovely drink to get you through the enshittification. Oh, there we go. To get you through the enshittification of the world. That lovely photograph was taken by Kat. That is Kat's thumbnail that is bright gold, by the way, which is great. And okay, Davey. Oh, YouTube channel first. Sorry. We also have the YouTube channel. Obviously, you're watching it, but we have all the shows are up there. And Davey, you're up next.
So we do a little fun bonus content for our audio only listeners. So if you subscribe to the Peculiar Book Club podcast feed on whatever podcasting app you listen on, you'll also get the Peculiar Movie Club. And we theme it around a book from that month. And so I thought for the Internet Con, I thought of a lot of ideas. I don't know if the themes of the early 2000s Ryan Philippe movie Antitrust are going to line up with the themes in your book, but it is a fun look at that weird tech culture. I don't know. What do you think, Cory? Is this one gonna?
That is not a good movie. It'll be fun to watch, but it's not a good. I watched it because
we specialize in that around here.
That cocktail looks fine, but don't drink it if you're on SSRIs or birth control, because the activated charcoal will suck them up in your blood. That's not a good thing.
We did put an asterisk into our drink recipe when we set that up.
I just love the idea that there's a common cocktail ingredient that lowers your inhibition and neutralizes your birth control.
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? That's a fun one. And I take activated charcoal on the regular for a condition that I have. So for me, it's like, but again, I don't have to worry about getting pregnant, so we're good. We're good there.
Susan said she loved the bonus movie club podcast from December, Davey. Yeah, we did a bonus Christmas themed episode for the Nightmare Before Christmas.
I went and saw Danny Elfman in the LA Philharmonic perform at the Hollywood Bowl.
That is fantastic. That is awesome.
He's pretty spry for a 70-year-old. I tell you what, better shape than I am.
The other movie I was thinking for your book, Cory, was Ralph Breaks the Internet.
Yeah, if you do the second one, I've got a credit in it.
Okay.
Oh, do you really?
I can always tell if someone's watched all the way to the end because they send me an email.
I really wanted to do the musical Urinetown, but there's no Broadway recording of it. There's no actual.
Right.
I thought that really would have hit the themes. So speaking of themes, how about that book?
Yeah, I know. How about that book? Oh, and I want to say too, for those of you who are interested in our peculiar beer, Nocturnal Visions by Revision Brewing. That's what Amanda Johnson was going with today. So we all decided to dress in black and wear black and think black thoughts about because it is infuriating. The book that you wrote gets to the heart of so many things that make me insane. And I love the question Leanne starts off with, because I think I think it's a question that you probably do get asked by people. What is my data? Why should I care? Why should I move it? Move it where? It rhymes. Wow, go Leanne. But seriously, I find people ask me all the time, they're like, well, but does it really matter to me? You have people ask those questions, I'm sure.
Yeah, so look, I had a crew in yesterday interviewing me about this, and we were talking about, they asked me to enumerate the ways that one kind of data about you might be collected and then why you should care about it. And so we did location data. And of course, there's the data your phone's operating system gathers. Then there's the data your phone's apps gather, which is different but similar. And then there's the data that your car gathers, and the data that your phone carrier gathers, right? Because as you move from cell to cell, that's all being gathered. Then there's the data that's gathered by people pretending to be phone carriers. There's a gadget called a Stingray that fits in a briefcase, and it pretends to be a cell tower. Now, modern cellular protocols, 4G mostly and 5G very much so, make it harder to do this. But thankfully for would-be spooks, your phone can be forced to fall back to those older protocols, because if you're at the end of a lonely country road with a busted axle, you don't want your phone to refuse to connect to the elderly superannuated radio on the only tower
Right.
you can get service on. And so what these things do is they blink up and they say, hi, I'm a cell phone tower. Tell me your unique identifier so I can figure out whether or not I can provide you with service. And your phone dutifully provides that. And then it says, sorry, nope. And what they get are the unique identifiers of all of the
Okay.
devices within range. And so, this is used in like protests and so on. But there's a version
Mhm.
of this called a dirt box that you put under a low flying plane and you fly in circles over cities. So Orange County, Baltimore, a bunch of other cities have been outed for having their cops take city scale censuses of movement. So
Oh my God.
and then there's the automatic license plate readers, which are gathering data about your car. There's also other ways that sensors in your environment gather data about you. So ring doorbells and anything that can sense a Wi-Fi access point or or rather a Wi-Fi radio or a
Mhm.
Bluetooth radio can gather distinct information about your mobile device, which periodically goes, hey, any Wi-Fi devices around here? And it can go, oh, I know what now I know your unique identifier. Same with Bluetooth.
Right.
And even when you have gadgets that are supposed to be masking this, like AirTags, it turns out that the antennas built into them have fingerprintable unique characteristics that occur on the
Mhm.
molecular scale. And so you can track an individual AirTag through space, and then if you correlate that with something else that's more decodable, like a Bluetooth identifier or something, then you can go, okay, this Bluetooth LE AirTag that I've found, whose owner I don't know, always moves with this other person whose owner I do know. Therefore, this is this person's AirTag, and so that is a lot of ways your data is going to be gathered, and it kind of it can be very it can fill you with despair to think about
Yeah, I
this.
was just gonna say, like,
It can-
it's so overwhelming that it almost, I mean, on one hand, Leanne was then saying, so how are those
Sure.
unique identifiers
So
used in a bad way?
we can divide those into two classes. So one is where something that you're doing is correctly identified and used to harm you. So think of
Yeah.
taking the census of everyone who's at a protest.
Mhm.
This was used commonly in the Black Lives Matter protests and also
Sure.
infamously for the January 6th protest and the riot that ensued. Um, think of being tracked into an abortion clinic or a
Mhm.
mosque
Right.
or uh, a doctor who specializes in cancer or HIV or gender affirming therapies.
Right.
Think
Right.
of
Especially
your
now.
abusive. Yeah, think of your abusive partner being able to figure out that you went to a divorce lawyer. Um,
Mm.
or the stalker that you're avoiding being able to buy
Right.
your data from your carrier. So the carriers keep getting caught selling their data for pennies to
Right.
brokers who then sell them to bounty hunters who then sell them to stalkers.
Right. Right.
So all of that.
Oh,
So those are the ways that it could be used correctly. And then there's all the ways that it could be used incorrectly, right? Where they make bad inferences. Like they
right.
go, you were near the January 6th
Yeah.
riot, therefore we're going to sweep you up in the dragnet, so you just become a dolphin in the tuna net. Cardinal Richelieu
Right.
said, if you give me 6 lines in the hands of an honest man, I'll find in them a reason to hang him. So gather the right set of fragmentary data and it can make anyone look guilty. You see this a lot where the cops have someone who fits the description and then they find the evidence. So,
Yeah.
we picked up the
Yeah.
black guy who was near the place that got robbed, and then we found the data that supported that he might have been in that place, right?
I actually sat on a jury once
Uh,
where somebody had carjacked someone. It was a and the description was a young black man in a hoodie with a gun had carjacked someone. They arrested an elderly black man carrying 2 suitcases and an umbrella.
Maybe you put the hoodie inside the suitcase.
Yeah, we were like, "Where was he how was he holding the gun?" is my question, you know? So, like, we just literally it was the shortest trial ever, like, the
Right.
entire jury went, "Why are we here? This
Yeah,
is
well, you were
ridiculous."
there because that guy didn't take a plea. 97% of the people who get indicted by federal prosecutors plea out. So
Yeah,
which means that either they are spookily good at only indicting guilty people or just no one goes to trial, which is what actually happens. So
yeah,
those are the ways that can be used against
right.
you. And then finally, like why you should care kind of big picture if you think about the world that we're living in
Mhm.
now, there's a bunch of stuff that today we think of as like not just socially acceptable, but like it is sad that it wasn't socially acceptable at some point in the
Right.
past.
Sure.
You know, marriage equality, being trans, smoking weed, so-called interracial marriage, right? And the way that those things became legal was not by like the government doxing everyone who had that part of their identity and then like busting them, and then the rest of us getting so angry at it that we demanded a change. It happened by people like having private spaces where they could disclose facts about their identity to other people, sometimes people who shared those facts about their identity, and sometimes people who mattered to them, right? You know, the
Mhm.
choosing the time and manner of your disclosures is really important. Like you don't
Yeah.
out yourself at, you know, Thanksgiving dinner with your racist uncle at the table. You wait till you and your dad are on that fishing trip, and then you have that heart to heart.
Yeah.
And that's how people from subaltern and marginalized communities
Mhm.
recruit the people who matter to them to be their allies.
Right.
And you know, the upshot here is that unless you think that like now in 2024 we have perfected the human condition and
Oh,
that like there's no more change to come, then you should reasonably assume that someone whose happiness just matters absolutely to you has something about their identity that they've never disclosed to you. And without a zone of privacy, there is every likelihood that they will go to their grave with a hole in their heart because you
Mhm.
never knew who they were truly. And
Right.
that fact alone should militate for those of us who are lucky enough not to have any fact about ourselves that we can't be authentic to step up for the people we love who we may not even know have those facts about
Yeah.
themselves.
For years, I didn't tell anyone I was autistic. I certainly didn't tell people that I was non-binary. And I completely understand that. And the other thing too is now that I'm somebody who is out in public, I also have a target on my back all the time. And so you understand the value of privacy when you kind of don't have it. Suddenly it's like, oh, um, like I had a bunch of people. I said some things about Marjorie Taylor Greene that were true and unkind in the Washington Post, and it's funny how people will figure out where you are and where you live, real quick.
Yep.
Like, and it's like, oh, so yeah, so it is fascinating to me that data is that important. But the second thing I want to ask about is I'm reading the book, and oh yeah, right on, that's right. I'm reading the book, and I'm thinking to myself, I am frustrated, but I'm also overwhelmed by just how I knew it was bad, but it's sort of like thinking you might have termites and then you turn over a rock and go, "Oh God, the termites have taken over." Um, how do you not lose hope? Because I don't feel as though you're someone who has no hope or has
Yeah.
no forward-looking way, and yet I feel like that itself is that's my question. I think is how do you look into the void and not just give up?
So I think that the overwhelmingness of things like the climate emergency and late stage capitalism and what have you, partly it's due to the scale and urgency of these crises, but
Hmm.
partly it's because of their intractability as a matter of individual action, right? So we look at the climate emergency and we say, I've recycled so hard and I only flush the toilet when it's a number two, and I have a composter, and yet the climate emergency just keeps getting worse. What do I have to do personally to resolve the climate
Yeah.
emergency? How many straws do I have to eschew before the climate emergency ends? Right.
Yeah.
And the climate emergency isn't the kind of problem we solve with individual action or individual choice.
Right.
And
Right.
neither are the crises in our monopolized economy. You know, the idea that voting with your wallet can solve real problems assumes that the best way for every election to be won is by the person with the biggest wallet to have the most votes, right? No
Yeah.
matter who you vote for in the wallet election, the monopoly party always wins.
Yeah.
And um, we are living through an age of unprecedentedly dire crisis, but we are also living through a generational turn in our ability to organize collective action to resolve systemic problems, right? Think of the leaps in trade unionization in the last 5 years, right? The big three automakers all caving, the writers winning their historic strike, hundreds of
Yeah.
Starbucks being organized.
Right.
And there are individuals who can make a difference there.
Mhm.
So, for example, Jennifer Abruzzo, who's the general counsel of the National Labor Review Board,
Yeah.
can make a difference.
Right.
and
Yes. Right.
and
Obviously.
you know, she's making a difference. So she's brought forward a couple of pretty amazing legal theories in important cases. So one in a case called Cemex says that it is the policy of her agency, and it is within the scope of the powers granted to them by Congress, that if an employer takes an unlawful action during a union drive that could materially affect the outcome of that drive, then the union is immediately granted recognition without any need for
Oh.
a vote, right?
Oh,
So
that's
this is
great.
like, it's like putting a tilt sensor in a pinball machine, right? And if your boss
Right.
shakes the pinball machine, it's game over for them.
You
And then
just get a
there's
union.
yeah, and there's another case.
Nice.
So then, you know, getting the union's only half the battle. The other half is getting the contract, and none of those 300
Sure.
Starbucks have got a contract. So what she said is, yeah, Congress doesn't let me impose a contract on an intractable employer, but it is within the scope of my powers to require employers to honor the contracts of comparable firms that have given contracts to their unions until such time as they produce a contract. And so she's going around to these firms that have not given
Great.
their workers contracts and saying, here you are. So basically she's erased the union avoidance playbook with two
Right.
strokes of a pen.
That's,
You
and
know,
see that, yeah. And I think that's one of the more important, one of the things that was, oddly enough, I was talking to Mark, my partner, about this just yesterday, which is not all of us do everything, right? You know, like some
mhm,
people march and go to sit-ins and things like that. I'm a people avoider. I'm
mm,
not going to be at a march. I write books. I run a social justice journal. So there's other
sure.
things that each one of us has something different we can do. What is it? Introverts unite at home by yourselves. Um,
Well, and but also, you know, creating political will and political
mhm,
cover, and understanding what what policies do matter and which ones don't. You
yeah,
know, like understanding that the you know, when a company violates labor law, if you fine them, that the fine is a price, right?
right.
And so when you get some person, you know, from the NLRB saying, "Oh, we just find this recalcitrant employer," being able, like, knowing enough to saying that's bullshit is the
Yeah,
precursor to the person who gets nominated, who says, no more
yeah,
fines, conduct remedies from now on, right? You
right.
do the wrong thing, we make you do the right thing. We step in and do
I
the
like
thing,
that a lot.
right?
Yeah.
And that requires a certain degree of being informed. Now,
Hmm.
you know, the other thing that's happening right now is that a lot of people are starting to connect disparate issues, and this is where I think enshittification and the internet con and thinking about these fine-grained technical details of what went wrong makes a big
Yeah.
difference, because it connects different struggles, right? So
Right. Right.
what does
Right.
an ad blocker
Community.
have to do with tech unions? Well, you know, historically, one of the checks on tech products going really bad was that tech workers were in such high demand that if they refused to make the products worse, it wasn't always possible for their employers to find someone who would do that job. And they couldn't afford to fire someone for
Right.
insubordination. So the moral injury of, like, missing, you know, we all know how tech workers work, right? Like this kind
Sure.
of hardcore sleep under your desk. So the moral injury of doing all that, missing your kid's little league game, missing funerals, missing your doctor's appointment, ruining your health, losing your marriage to make a product that you really care about, and then to have your boss say, also, we're just going to turn it into a pile of shit to eke out like an extra 3 points on the you know,
Right.
3 basis points for our quarterly report, was something that actually kept the product better, right? And now 12,000 Googlers got fired within like 2 months of Google doing a
Yeah.
stock buyback that would have paid their salaries for the next 27 years. Tech employees are no longer that last bastion of our
Right.
support.
Right.
So,
Right.
you know, it takes the sense that what's going on is just some sort of numinous great force of history converging on the moment to make everything worse. And it unwinds the material conditions that contribute to it, which then suggests remedies, right? So, like,
Right. Actually, that's. Let me.
Sure.
Someone just said something about that. So a couple of things have popped up while you were talking, but one is about the fact that the system is how the system actually feeds. But first, Catherine Prendergast, she was just saying you never know when you're going to be a target. So this is another point about how data can be utilized against you even when you are
Right.
not expecting it. She's on Turning Point USA's dangerous professor watch list for the mildest reason imaginable, she says.
Oy.
Um, yeah. And Amanda Johnson, this is where I was going. If you're not a user, you're a customer, and your value is based on what they can sell to you, at least as far as big tech and monopolies. And I think that's really interesting. Like their discovery of the data is partly feeding their knowledge of how you
Sure.
shop, which is then, it's all kind of it's a thing that's rolling downhill.
So,
Quick question,
sure.
Davey, do we have music for this one? Did we have a band for
Yes,
tonight?
we have Charming
We do.
Disaster tonight.
Okay. Because I wanted to make sure. I know your time is valuable, and I know we're at the halfway point. I have a question from Leanne. I also have someone pointing out your amazing bookshelf tchotchkes that we should probably talk
Joni
about.
loves tchotchke.
So let's. That was actually Catherine that pointed that out. So I want to get back to Leanne's question and talk a little bit more about this, and also mention Lost Cause, because I was actually chatting with Neil Gaiman, and he's the one who mentioned your book Lost Cause, and I was like, oh, we need to talk about that too. But first, a musical interlude by our house band.
Oh, hello, Peculiars.
It's us, Charming Disaster.
And we have a song for you about the end of the world.
It's called Soft Apocalypse.
Sirens wail everywhere. Don't you worry, baby. Powers out, twist and shout. Let's have a party, baby.
The lights have gone out.
This is what we talked about. The sun's turning red.
Grab the things you prepared.
Get your coat, time to go. You better hurry, baby. You know where, meet me there. Let's have a party, baby.
There are no more rules.
We can start something new. A kingdom of two.
Empty homes and swimming pools.
There's no help, save yourself. Take what you can carry, baby. Dance between the dead machines. Let's have a party, baby. This is no drill, it's no dream, it's all real. Close your eyes, make a wish. We've been waiting for this. The end of the world, not as bad as you've heard. Just a kiss on the lips from a soft apocalypse. Sirens wail everywhere. Don't you worry, baby. Powers out, twist and shout. Let's have a party, baby. Get your
This
coat,
is no
time
drill,
to go.
it's no
You
dream,
better hurry,
it's all real.
baby.
Close your
You
eyes,
know
make a
where,
wish.
meet me there.
We've been
Let's have a
waiting
party,
for this.
baby.
Oh, the
There's no
end
help,
of the
save
world,
yourself.
not
Take
as
what you can
bad as
carry,
you heard.
baby.
Just a
Dance
kiss
between
on the
the dead
lips
machines.
from a
Let's
soft
have a party,
apocalypse.
baby.
So that's Charming Disaster.
Very good.
Apocalyptic Party. They're always good for. They're very nice for those thematic songs. One of my favorites is Still Deep in the High. That's about the snake charmer killing her tightrope walking husband. Anyway, always a lot of fun. So let's go back to this bookshelf that you have back here, because we love show and tell, and there's a lot of good stuff going on back there.
Oh, you want me to go through it?
Show us some stuff.
Well, this is my ode to my contribution to climate change. These are my conference badges. I'm changing the climate. Ask me how. What else have I got? Let's go for some stuff in arm's reach here. We every desk needs a guillotine. It is
It
definitely
does.
guillotine season. We've
Oh,
got your
you are preaching to you're singing my tune right there.
Soviet rocket ships with space dogs. Let's see, 50,000-year-old axe head.
Nice. How'd you get a hold of that?
The Evolution store in New York. My wife made me into a head in a jar.
Oh, that's very much my thing. You know about my book about the head transplants, right?
Yeah. I thought it's broken head. Well, no, it's in the bar. Every office needs a gaff. We
Yep.
live in the goth district. We've got 4 year-round
Lucky you.
Halloween stores here in Burbank. So there's a kind of great multiplicity of that. I don't know if anyone is a aficionado of vintage haunted mansion
Oh, very
souvenirs, but
Very
the
nice.
Randotti, which I always assume was Italian, but it turns out that the company was started by a guy named Randy and a woman named Dottie. So the Randotti company made the world's greatest cast plaster skulls. If any of you are fans of Koop, the artist, he's been doing a lot of large canvas studies of them. What else have I got back here? I had a kind of moment where I just found myself really wanting a lot of Talking Heads cassettes.
Oh, that's wonderful.
And so I for my sins, Spotify tells me I am one of the 0.01% of Talking Heads listeners in the world.
Oh dear.
Everyone who visits Australia comes back with 2 souvenirs: a change purse made out of a kangaroo scrotum and a change purse made out of a cane toad.
Oh, cane toad. Yep.
This is how you get rid of invasive species. You create a business model for their extermination.
We need to do something about carp.
Yeah, there you go. Well, I feel really good about eating uni here in Southern California because all the sea urchins are the invasive sea urchins that have infested the kelp forests of Santa Barbara. And boy, oh boy, the more of those we eat, the better life gets.
That's right. Oh,
This is
see,
a
there's
perfect-
plenty of Talking Heads.
Perfect lead-in for next week's episode or 2 weeks episode. Pests. Cory, we're gonna have to have you back as a co-host on that one.
Oh
Yeah, that's a good one. Susan says those shelves must require a lot of dusting.
I dust them 4 times a year, and I had
do
a
you?
TV crew in yesterday, and they lit up the lights, and I was like, oh, it's filthy. It's just, I've been on the road so much, I haven't done anything. I've been very lax, and I just felt very ashamed.
Yeah, no, I get it. I try to dust. I occasionally will bring people in to make dusting happen in my house. But yeah, it's tough.
Yeah.
God, gee, can we just eat the rich? We really that sometimes feels like the only appropriate answer. So I had a question in here. I've lost it, Davey. Where did my question go?
We can
set up here?
scroll back up to it. Sadie, I had to Google that. I'm going to be honest with you.
Oh yeah, so we were talking about users, and this gets back to our question about how do you stay positive? How do you think about solutions? So how can I be seen as a real person and not just a user? Drug dealers sell to users. I'm a person, but yet and I totally get that because I feel like I'm a user of technology in some ways, and yet I'm also getting used by the technology. We frequently, I said this in Clockwork Futures, we have a tendency to change ourselves to meet the technology a lot more often than technology changes to meet our needs.
Yeah. Well, look, I think that there's this very easy kind of lazy way of talking about this where you say, if you're not paying for the product, you're the product. Like Dignity is a customer reward program. And the reality is that there's like an infinitude of businesses where you pay for the product and they still productize you, right? The reason Apple is blocking repair on your iPhone is not because you didn't spend enough money on it. It's because they can get away with it, right? And so the thing that disciplines firms and makes them treat you with dignity is not spending money on them. It's like them fearing some negative consequence of it, which is what I was getting at before when I talked about employees quitting or regulators regulating. Like, this is the way to connect all those dots that And there's this, I can't remember the quote verbatim, but there's I believe it's a Martin Luther King quote that goes something like, I don't really care if you're racist, provided you're not allowed to say racist stuff to me, right? Like, I don't care if you believe it, right?
Right.
But I just want you to not be able to act on it. And I
Mhm.
don't care if a company thinks I'm a person or an ambulatory wallet, so long as they're forced to pretend that they think I'm a person. And like all things being equal, it'd be better if the company treated me like a person, but or because they felt that way, but I'll settle for not being dehumanized because they fear the consequences. So when you think about technology, and one of the points of the internet con is that there are exceptions, ways in which technology is exceptional, just not the
Yeah.
ways that most people think. But like,
Right.
one exceptional thing about technology is this underlying flexibility that allows end users to unilaterally reconfigure a technology, right? Like put an ad blocker in it, right? More than half of all web users now have ad blockers, which are
Yeah.
also tracking blockers, right? It's not just about
Right.
stopping you from seeing ads, it's about stopping you from being tracked.
Right.
Zero app users have an ad blocker because to reverse engineer the app is a felony, right?
Yeah.
And so think about the boardroom where someone decides to make an app so obnoxious that it might send you to Google to type in, how do I block ads, right? uh, if they know that the answer you get back is going to be you can't or you'll go to prison, then they have a lot of leeway to make the ads more obnoxious.
Right.
But if there's someone at the boardroom table, not someone who thinks you're a person worthy of dignity or whatever, just someone who cares about the bottom line, who says, look, Fred, I hear what you're saying. We make the ads 25% more obnoxious. We get 3% more revenue. Everybody gets a raise. But here's the thing you're not thinking about is 25% of our users are going to be so pissed off that they Google, how do I block ads? And then our revenue from those users doesn't merely fail to rise by the expected 3%. Our revenue from those
falls.
users drops to
Yeah.
zero forever.
Mhm.
Right? So, like, I'm not saying self-help actions are a substitute for regulation. They're an adjunct
Right.
to regulation, right? Having this remedy there that you can lean into. So I see Amanda's question, what can we do to push for more regulation, consistent enforcement? So we have the most muscular regulatory regime for tech that we've seen in 2 generations, in the form of the Consumer Finance Protection Board and Rohit Chopra, the DOJ Antitrust Division and Jonathan
Mhm.
Cantor, and the FTC led by Lena Khan. And
Right.
Wall Street hates them. There have been
Yes.
85 negative editorials about Lena Khan, the chair of the Federal Trade
Oh,
Commission, since she
of
took
course.
office. So you need to be out there telling your
Mhm.
friends, your girl Lena's got your back, right?
Right.
She's the one who's saying privacy should be considered in antitrust enforcement. She's the one who's saying you can't have certain mergers will no longer be permitted. We're not going to allow any more non-compete agreements. The median American under a non-compete agreement works at a fast food restaurant. And
Yeah.
they're like, it's the kid at the Wendy's who's being not the kid, the adult with 2 kids on food stamps who's
Right.
being blocked from getting 10 cents an hour more down the road at a Burger King. Right?
Yeah.
That's what that's the trade secrets
That's
our
right.
non-competes are protecting. In fact, the
Ugh.
one trade secret intensive industry in this country that's unequivocally trade secret intensive is tech. And tech is
Mhm.
centered in California. And in California, non-competes have been illegal since the California state constitution was adopted. So none of the tech industry has ever relied on non-competes. So these people who say, oh, how could you build a business if you could let your
Right.
like AI is all bullshit, but the OpenAI's biggest competitor was founded by their chief scientist who left because he didn't like the way they were running the business. Right.
Right.
So like, is anyone going to say, oh, like no one would invest in a sector if non-competes weren't enforceable? Like the single biggest investment bubble our species has seen in living memory is AI. And it is not just an industry that hypothetically operates without non-competes. It is an industry that is built on people competing with their former employers, right? So,
Yeah.
you've got these people who are out there and they got your back, and we need to have their back. We need to tell our friends. We need to call into talk radio. We need to, like, when they start showing up on your door in a couple of months to stump for the election, say, are you going to have the FTC's back? Are you going to have the DOJ's
Yeah.
back? Are you going to have the CFPB's back? CFPB just made a rule so that with one click, you can change bank accounts to another bank and bring over all your bill payments, all your history, everything, the way you can with your phone bill, right? So, like,
Right.
if you've ever been on one of those comparison shopping sites where they said, oh, you could be getting an extra, you could pay $20 a month less and you could get an extra $4 a month on your savings account that you're saving for like unpleasant surprises or whatever. You're like, ugh, $20 a month, $4 a month. Is it worth it for the 10
We're
hours of
doing
work?
all the
What if you could do it with one click? What would
Right.
your bank do to keep your business if you could do it with one
Well,
click?
that's true. That's
Right.
true.
So this is like
Or your insurance company or
your insurance. Yeah. So the Consumer
Yeah.
Finance Protection Bureau is doing stuff to safeguard you, just like the National Labor Relations Board is with these new rules about union recognition and contract imposition.
What the thing is we hardly ever hear about the positive stuff. I mean, we hardly ever do, right? Like we tend to focus on the negative. And the thing is, the bad guys don't want you to hear about the positive stories either.
Sure. Yeah, and there's plenty of negative stuff. Don't get me wrong. Like, I am not overall a fan of the Biden administration, and without wanting to open the can of worms about Israel Palestine, as a Jew in solidarity with Palestinians, I am aghast at the Biden administration's policy, and I am worried not just about what's happening to Palestinians, but also what will happen to this country because of the alienation of this awful policy that they've adopted.
Right.
And I think that, like, there's plenty to be upset about, just not this. This is not the thing we need to be upset about. This is going great.
And I think the point is also just letting people know, like we asked earlier, like it's people don't know their data is being used in upsetting ways. They don't know why it's dangerous. They don't know that we can do something about it. And I think that's the power and the strength of this particular book. Oh, I just saw a question. So this question was asked: is the EU being more active in regulation than we are in the United
EU is
States?
doing a lot better. They don't have the same relationship to these mainly US tech companies that the American lawmakers and policymakers do. So they get a lot more cover. That it's not like that the tech companies don't lobby in the EU, and it's not that they haven't captured entire countries. Like one of the reasons that the EU's amazing privacy law, the General Data Protection Regulation, has been so badly enforced is because European federalism allows companies to fly flags of convenience of any of the 27 member states, and they all pretend that they're in Ireland, and Ireland is a lawless crime haven that, in order to keep people there as a tax haven, has become a regulatory haven as well. So the European or the Irish data commissioner hears like 17 major cases a year, even though they oversee every major tech company in Europe, whereas the German data commissioner hears like 500 major cases a year for just like regular businesses. Like the Irish data commissioner barely gets out of bed, and when they do, they hang around all day in their pajamas eating cereal and watching cartoons, right? Like that's the problem, right? It's not that the rules couldn't be enforced, it's that federalism is challenging. But the Europeans are doing better, and with these new rules, the Digital Markets Act and the Digital Services Act, they're resolving this by just saying, okay, your first port of call if you got a problem is not a national court, it's the federal courts. And so they're just saying, like, they're not taking Ireland out of the EU, but
Amanda thinks
President's a leprechaun. Yeah, lots of good stuff has happened in Irish democracy too. Like Irish sortition, which is the thing where they get citizen panels to resolve policies that politicians struggle with, has resulted in the legalization of abortion in Ireland.
Yes.
No politician can touch it; it's too hot. But a citizen
but regular people are like, come on.
Yeah.
I'm watching the time, and I know we have something very special planned for you because.
Sure. Yes, I have 4 minutes.
You have 4 minutes. We have a quiz. We have a quiz for you. We're going to fly through it, but you do have help. All right.
So I did want to quiz you. Like I was researching antitrust, and I was going back to like U.S. Steel and Standard Oil, and while it was interesting, it was also kind of boring.
Sure.
So I figured I like to make the quiz fun. So why ask you about those monopolies when I could just ask you about Monopoly, the classic board game,
the landlord game.
So Monopoly might be a perfect board game, but it doesn't have a perfect board. Which property has a typo? Is it A, Mediterranean Avenue, B, Connecticut Avenue, or C, Marvin Gardens?
I'm pretty sure that's not how you spell Mediterranean.
All right, Peculiars. We got to go fast here. So Peculiars, get your comments in. He's going with A.
I'm going with. Oh wait, but Connecticut is weird too. I think I'm going with A.
The answer is C. Marvin Gardens.
What?
Really?
It's actually Marven.
What?
And the typo got transferred over because people were like making their own home versions of it, and the guy who
funny.
popularized it just went with one of those home versions.
Well, let's
Oh my
call
God.
him what he was, the guy who stole it from the woman who created it.
Yes.
Who created it? There we go.
We'll get there. We'll get there. All right. So the game of Monopoly might be about gaining as much wealth as possible, but there is a limit. How much money does the US standard version of the game include? This is the original version.
I'm going to go with C.
It's A, 15,140. Oh, B. Oh, he had to go. Wow, he really had to go.
You really had to go. All right, well, we'll keep going. We'll keep going, girls.
Peculiars, we're playing for you now. Is it A, $15,140? B, oh, Corey's back.
Yeah,
18,750, or C, 24,310.
Why are they all such weird numbers? I'm going to go with B.
B, 18,000. All right, the answer is, and Corey, I don't even remember what you said. The answer is
C.
15,140. That's it.
What's with the
$15,000.
140? Why is there this random number? I don't
There
understand.
are even numbers of like all the, so you get like 40 of these
Oh,
bills,
okay.
40 of those bills, and that's just what it adds up
All right. Well, a lot of people were going with B out here. All right. What?
Last question, and Corey, I
Last
know
question.
already has this. Monopoly is based off an older game created by anti-monopolist Lizzie Maggie, who was eventually paid $500 by Parker Brothers for her patent. The original game was called A, the Railroad Game, B, the Landlord's Game, or C, the Bankruptcy Game.
Bum, bum, bum.
Sadie
We
says,
all
"What's
know
that?
this one."
What's that adjusted for inflation?"
Inflation, yeah.
That's why I said the original game, because there are newer versions that have way more money in them.
Yeah.
Sir
B, of
Patrick
course,
Stewart
yes, of
still
course.
has the Monopoly. Is that Sir? Oh, me and
Sorry,
Brandy click at the same time. Sir Patrick Stewart still has the Monopoly set from his childhood. Just read about it in his autobiography.
Oh, everyone says B. We're all B in this one. We know it's
The answer is
Landlord's
yes.
Game.
The answer is B, the Landlord's Game.
I think it's hilarious that like the game was supposed to teach you how bad capitalism is, and Parker Brothers was like, "Let's enjoy some capitalism, everybody."
She was also a very special kind of crank. She was a Georgian, without getting into too much. They're a kind of flat taxer who believes in nothing but land tax. And her heart was in the right place, but she was heterodox in interesting ways. Guys, I've got to drop. I got to get on this next call, but lovely chatting with you.
It was so good to have you. Join us again anytime. You are kind of weird.
I will. All right. Thank you.
Bye, Corey.
I gotta say, Monopoly got me through my tonsils in high school. Getting my tonsils out of high school, it was a long. I did not react well to the surgery, and it was a long few weeks. And Monopoly got me through it.
I frankly still have all my tonsils. Well, I guess we only have two. I still have both my tonsils. I have all my parts. I haven't had anything taken out, I don't think. Oh wait, no, I had 2 wisdom teeth taken out. I've got everything else because I would like to leave this earth with the same number of things that I got here with if I can. Yes, thank you all for what's that?
Is that even possible?
Not with all the same cells. No, not unless you kept them in a jar very carefully. Which that feels like there's a short horror story in there. Yeah. But for all of you who are still here, first of all, thank you so much for joining us. This was fun. I said we were going to fly through this one because we wanted to make sure Corey could get out in time for his next show. It was wonderful that he could bring us all back, bring us back together again as our first show of the year, which is very cool. Oh, wait, what's this? Yeah. Amanda's losing some internal lady bits, minus the ovaries. Woohoo! Does anyone have a single tonsil? Sadie asked. You know what? I love you guys. I miss you guys when we're not here because these.
Sadie, we have to save that question for next December when we do the book Bite. That'd be the perfect question for them.
That is an excellent question. So, for those of you who are following, the Wallace updates are going. Wallace is still living in my house for the moment, but hopefully we will we'll get him back out into the wild. I have literally bought a small house that is the same color and style as my actual house that is going to be attached to my house for the cat. I know. But yeah. Thank you all for coming. I see several of you talked about how he was good and well-spoken, weak-spoken, well-spoken. Well-spoken, says Jennifer Pierce. Next December, actually December 2024, that's when Bite will be. Right? Amanda was asking. Yes, this
Yeah,
coming.
we got a long way.
Yay, Wallace. And Bethany Brookshire is coming up next. Bethany Brookshire's book Pests, which is super great. By the way, so you guys know, about I'd say a quarter of the books that we're doing this year were recommendations by our Patreon VIP members. VIP members get a chance to send recommendations my way, and so thank you all for that. It was wonderful talking to you. We will see you all next time for Pests, and I'm just so glad you were able to join us once again at a place with a new intro, where if you're weird, you're family.
You got the blue bottle blues when you wake up in the night. Don't make a big mistake, 'cause you can never make it right. When you reach out for the vial, feel the ridges in the glass. It's a matter of survival, baby, better watch your back. There is no antidote. There is no antidote. There